Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to the Byzantine Empire with good old Isaac Asimov.
Asimov is, he's great.
Yeah, you gave me his book, Constantinople, The Forgotten Empire.
Right?
And we're going to go through all 10 chapters of it.
He does a really good job at making this often forgotten empire come to life.
Yeah.
And he covers, over 1,500 years.
Right from the very beginning.
From its humble beginnings as just this little city Byzantium to its dramatic fall as the, huge city of Constantinople.
Right, yeah. So let's dive into chapter 1.
Okay.
It's called The City on the Strait.
Yeah.
So, what makes this location so special?
Well, Asimov really emphasizes Byzantium's location on the Bosphorus Strait, which, if you don't know, is this very narrow waterway that connects Europe and Asia.
Right, it's a very strategic location.
Yeah, so it was super important for trade, which made the city a very coveted prize for centuries.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Now, Asimov talks about this legend about Bezos, the city's founder, and how he was told to build his city opposite the city of the blind.
Right.
What is that about?
Okay, so it's a really cool story.
Okay.
That basically illustrates how much of an advantage Byzantium had just based on its location.
Yeah.
So Bezos, he travels all around looking for the best spot to build his city. Right.
Yeah.
And then he finds it across from this city called Chalcedon, which was on the, less strategic side of the strait.
So on the wrong side.
The wrong side, yeah. And so the city of the blind in the story refers to the Chalcedonians who, didn't see the huge potential that Byzantium's location had.
That's so funny.
It is kind of funny.
They were blind to it.
Yeah.
So from the very beginning, it seems like it's all about location, 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 right?
Absolutely.
Like if they had picked a different spot.
Oh, it's a completely different story.
It would have been a totally different story.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
Well, Asimov takes us through all of these power struggles with Byzantium getting caught between all these huge empires.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Like Greece and Persia and Macedonia.
Wow.
And it's actually amazing how this little city managed to survive.
Yeah.
And actually even thrive in the middle of all this craziness going on.
It's been a very chaotic time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So we move on to chapter 2.
Okay.
This is the capital of the East,
Mm-hmm.
and we're introduced to Constantine the Great.
Right.
What does Asimov tell us about this guy?
Well, Constantine is the guy who changes everything.
Really?
Yeah, he had this huge vision and the ambition to transform Byzantium into this grand new capital city,
Wow.
Constantinople.
Constantinople, right?
Yeah, and Asimov describes the city's super rapid growth.
Wow.
All this crazy new architecture that he's building inspired by the Romans.
It sounds impressive.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it becomes the first Christian capital too, right?
Yeah.
So this is a massive shift in the world.
Absolutely.
Now the Hagia Sophia is something that I, have seen pictures of.
Right.
And it's one of those iconic buildings from that period.
You're sure.
Did Asimov talk about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
It's a huge symbol of Constantine's ambition. Come on the dome. It's insane.
Right.
Yeah. So Asimov gives us all these really interesting details about how it was built and the impact of moving the capital eastward.
So it's a huge deal.
Oh, yeah. It was a pivotal moment in history.
Uh-huh.
It really reshaped the entire Roman Empire.
Wow.
And it laid the foundation for this whole new era.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So in chapter 3, the Darkening Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Sounds a little ominous.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Roman Empire splits,
Uh-huh.
and Constantinople becomes the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire.
Right. Or what we call the Byzantine Empire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of challenges does Constantinople face now that it's on its own?
Well, Asimov takes us through this period of just intense challenges.
Oh, no.
Barbarian invasions,
Oh,
internal power struggles,
Yikes.
religious conflicts. It was one thing after another.
That sounds overwhelming.
Oh, yeah. You really get a sense of how the empire was always under threat.
Always on edge.
Yeah.
Always.
So how did they even survive all of that?
That's what's so amazing about the Byzantine Empire is their resilience.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to adapt and withstand these threats that seemed impossible to overcome.
Right.
And Asimov even describes this crazy weapon they used called Greek fire.
What?
Yeah, Greek fire.
I've never even heard of that.
I know, right? It was this secret weapon that they used to fight off the Arab invaders.
Wow. So they had some tricks up their sleeve.
Oh, yeah. For sure they had to.
Okay. So then chapter 4.
Yes.
The double catastrophe.
Oh, boy.
This doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't.
So what happens?
Okay, so now the Empire's stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Oh.
Yeah, they have to deal with threats from both sides.
Oh, gosh.
So they've got the Bulgarians in the Balkans.
Right.
And then they've got the Arabs in the Middle East.
Oh, wow. So they're surrounded.
Yeah, basically.
It's like, how do they handle that? Well, Asimov really highlights how smart the Byzantine emperors had to be.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they had to be really good at strategy to navigate all of this chaos.
They probably didn't sleep very much.
I know, right? And Asimov tells this crazy story about Emperor Justinian II.
Yeah.
This guy had his nose cut off by his enemies.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? It's brutal. But he eventually comes back.
No way.
Yes, and reclaims the throne.
What?
It's a true story.
That is wild.
Yeah, it just shows you how, like, crazy power was back then.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so then we get to chapter 5, the iconoclast emperors.
Uh-huh.
And this sounds like some serious religious drama.
It is.
Like, what exactly was iconoclasm?
So iconoclasm was all about banning the use of religious icons.
So, like, no more images of saints or Jesus.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And Asimov dives into why this happened.
Okay.
It's a mix of people being worried about idolatry.
Right.
And also just like straight up political maneuvering.
So some people were using it for their own gain.
Of course.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so how did all of this play out within the Byzantine Empire?
Well, it created this huge division.
Oh.
Yeah, emperors were clashing with religious leaders and even the Pope over in Rome.
So this is a big deal.
It was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And Asimov does a good job of explaining like the theology behind it all.
Okay.
And how it actually like permanently affected the relationship between the Eastern and the Western branches of Christianity.
That's interesting. So this isn't just some small little argument?
No, it had lasting repercussions.
Wow, so it sounds like a recipe for, like, total chaos.
Oh, it definitely was.
And Asimov doesn't shy away from that.
No, he doesn't.
He shows us just how messy it all was.
Yeah, religion and politics, it's a dangerous mix.
Always.
Yeah.
So, chapter 6, the Macedonian emperors.
Yes.
This sounds like maybe things are getting a little better.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we're introduced to this new dynasty.
Yeah.
And it seems like a time of, like, renewed strength for the empire.
Right. So this is the era of guys like Basil II. And there's a real resurgence of Byzantine power, and we start to see this flourishing of culture, too.
Okay, so things are looking up a bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Asimov talks about Basil II's military achievements.
Right.
He was even known as the Bulgar Slayer.
Yeah, he basically solidified Byzantine control in the Balkans.
Okay, Bulgar Slayer.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty intense.
It is.
Like, what can you tell me about him?
Okay, so Asimov doesn't like sugarcoat anything.
Okay.
He tells it how it is.
Okay.
So Basil II was a ruthless guy,
Okay.
but he also puts that ruthlessness into context.
The empire was fighting for its survival.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a really captivating story of ambition,
Okay.
like just pure ambition.
Ruthlessness.
The ruthlessness.
And then finally, like, triumph.
Yeah.
So they did come out on top at the end.
They did?
Okay, it sounds like this was a very interesting period in Byzantine history.
It is.
Is there anything else that we should know about this golden age, so to speak?
Yeah, well, Asimov really emphasizes the artistic and intellectual revival that was happening during this time. Like, there's so much going on. And he even connects it back to, like, the foundation that was being laid for the Italian Renaissance.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it's a good reminder that the Byzantine Empire wasn't all about, like, war and politics.
Right.
They made huge contributions to art and literature and scholarship.
That's incredible.
It is.
So they were very well-rounded.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, so we're moving from a golden age into what?
Yeah, so chapter 7 is called Emperors and Generals.
Okay.
And it really shows this shift in, like, how power works in the Byzantine Empire.
So it's not all emperors anymore.
No, not really. So Asimov starts focusing on these powerful generals.
Okay.
Some of them even try to, like, take over the throne.
Wow, so there's some backstabbing going on.
Oh, yeah, tons of it.
Game of Thrones style.
Totally. Like, Asimov just lays out all this ambition and loyalty and betrayal.
That sounds juicy.
It is.
So who are some of these major players?
Well, Asimov introduces us to guys like Nicephorus Phocas
Okay.
and John Simises.
These are not names that you hear every day.
No, they're not, but these guys were ambitious.
Okay.
And they really shake things up in the Empire.
So they're like disrupting the status quo?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what about the Varangian Guard?
No, yeah.
I've heard of them, but I don't really know who they are.
Okay, so the Varangian Guard were like this elite unit of warriors.
Okay.
But they weren't Byzantine.
Really?
No, they were Scandinavian.
What?
Yeah. So Asimov brings them up as another, like, interesting part of this era.
So they're mercenaries.
Basically, yeah. And it shows how much the Empire had to rely on outsiders.
Because their own armies weren't strong enough?
Yeah, pretty much. And also, it's another example of all these shifting alliances.
Okay, so lots of drama still going on.
Oh, yeah, always.
So then Chapter 8, The Coming of the Turks.
Oh.
This sounds like a big turning point.
It is.
It's a new threat.
Yeah, so this is where we meet the Seljuk Turks. And Asimov really makes it clear that, like, things are about to change big time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens?
Well, we get to the Battle of Manzikert, and it's a huge defeat for the Byzantine Empire.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and this is like a major turning point because it basically opened the door for the Turks to take over Anatolia.
Okay, so what made this battle so significant? I mean, why is this the one that everyone remembers?
Well, Asimov really lays out the consequences of this battle.
Okay.
It wasn't just about losing soldiers.
Okay.
It was about showing everyone that the empire was vulnerable.
So it's like a psychological blow, too.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the Seljuk Turks, like, they see this weakness and they take advantage of it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and they start taking over land that used to be part of the Byzantine Empire.
And Anatolia was like a key part of the empire, right?
Oh, yeah, it was crucial.
So this is a major loss.
Oh, yeah, devastating.
Okay, so does the Byzantine Empire, like, try to bounce back from this?
Well, that's what Chapter 9 is all about. It's called The West Comes East.
Okay.
And Asimov shows us how the empire is getting weaker and weaker.
So they need help.
Yeah, they're desperate for help.
Okay.
So they start looking to the West for support.
Even though they don't really get along.
Yeah, there's still a lot of tension between the Eastern and Western branches of Christianity.
Right, so it's a bit of a risky move.
It is.
But they're desperate.
Exactly.
Okay, so isn't this where the whole sack of Constantinople happens?
Yes, during the Fourth Crusade.
Oh, man, that's like a super famous event in history.
Yeah, and it's a really sad chapter in Byzantine history.
Okay.
So the Fourth Crusade was supposed to go liberate the Holy Land.
Right.
But then things go sideways.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and they end up attacking Constantinople instead.
That's crazy.
I know, right? It's like a total betrayal.
Yeah.
A Christian city attacking another Christian city.
It's mind-blowing.
It is.
So what was the aftermath of all of this?
Well, Asimov really doesn't hold back on the details.
Okay.
He describes all the destruction and the looting.
It must have been horrific.
It was.
Yeah.
It's like a reminder of what happens when politics and religion get mixed up.
Yeah, that never ends well.
No, it doesn't.
So this event must really damage the relationship between the East and the West.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It just made the rift between them even bigger.
And now the Byzantine Empire is even more isolated.
Right.
More vulnerable.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation.
Okay, so going into the final chapter of Asimov's book, we've got the Byzantine Empire. They're weak, they're isolated, and they're facing this powerful new enemy in the Ottoman Turks.
Right, and Chapter 10, the Ottoman Triumph, is all about how Constantinople finally falls.
Okay.
Yeah, Asimov takes us through the siege of the city.
Led by Mehmed II.
Yes, Mehmed II, this ambitious Ottoman sultan.
Right.
He wanted Constantinople to be like the jewel of his empire.
I bet it was a pretty dramatic siege.
Oh, yeah. It was, Asimov's account of it is really gripping.
Okay.
He talks about how bravely the city defended itself.
Okay.
But the Ottomans just kept coming and coming.
They were relentless.
Yeah. And in the end, Constantinople falls.
It's a sad ending.
It is.
So why did Constantinople fall? I mean, were the Ottomans just that much stronger?
Well, Asimov points to their military technology as a major factor.
Okay.
Especially their use of gunpowder artillery.
Right.
They were way ahead of their time in that regard.
So the Byzantine defenders didn't really stand a chance?
No, not really. They fought bravely.
Okay.
But they just couldn't compete with that kind of firepower.
It's like technology decided the winner.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fall of Constantinople wasn't just the end of an empire.
Right.
It was also a huge shift in, like, global power.
The Ottomans are the new superpower.
Exactly.
It's crazy to think about, like, an empire that lasted for over 1,000 years just disappearing.
I know. It's hard to fathom.
So what are, like, your final thoughts on Asimov's book, Constantinople, The Forgotten Empire?
It's really an amazing book.
Yeah.
Asimov is such a good storyteller.
Yeah, he is.
Like, he manages to weave together all these complex events and these, like, larger-than-life characters and all these fascinating cultural details.
Right.
And it's all presented in a way that's just so interesting and easy to understand.
I agree. I learned so much.
Right.
And we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
From the city's location to, like, all of its achievements in art and culture and religion And then, of course, all the threats that it faced.
It was a wild ride.
It really was.
Yeah.
So what do you think is like the Byzantine Empire's biggest legacy?
Well, Asimov really emphasizes the empire's role as like this bridge between East and West.
Okay.
Constantinople was this crucial center for trade and diplomacy.
Right.
And like the exchange of ideas for centuries.
Even after it fell.
Yeah, and even after its fall, the Byzantine Empire had this huge impact on art and architecture and law and religion.
Wow.
All throughout Europe and the Middle East.
So its influence was far-reaching.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a good reminder that, like, history is all connected.
Absolutely.
Empires and civilizations don't just exist in isolation.
No, they all influence each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Asimov really wants us to see the Byzantine Empire not just as like this fallen power,
Okay.
but as this vibrant and complex civilization that had a real impact on the world.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So would you recommend this book to our listener?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Constantinople, the Forgotten Empire, is a must-read.
For history buffs.
Oh, yeah. History buffs, politics, religion.
Yeah.
Or even just people who like a good story.
That's me.
Yeah, me too.
It's a book that'll make you think, and I feel like it'll change how you view the past.
For sure.
It definitely did for me.
Yeah.
Asimov's book really sparked this fascination with the Byzantine Empire. I want to go learn even more now.
That's awesome.
And I'm excited to explore different perspectives on this period of history.
Yeah, there's so much out there.
That's the best part.
Yeah, it's like there's a whole new world to discover.
So to our listeners, if you're looking for like a captivating and insightful journey into a forgotten empire, Isaac Asimov's Constantinople, The Forgotten Empire, is like the perfect starting point.
Couldn't agree more.
What questions will you take with you
Yeah.
as you learn more about Byzantium?
That's a good question.
Let us know what you think.